a minute, man. It's been like what, a week since we did this last and
It's been a week
failed.
since we tried to. Yeah, this.
So
I think that
we failed.
I think doing the pre-tape thing is the way to do it. Takes the
Yeah,
pressure off.
here we are, man. You were cool enough to come back and redo this and tell these stories. I'm grateful that you were able to do that, Alex. Always good to see you. The last time we kind of caught up was back in I think 2014, somewhere around there, and that was right about the time that you were putting stuff out with James Durbin. Yeah, you're recording with James Durbin, American Idol contestant, and he was a tremendous singer, is a tremendous singer. So that was wild to check it out. So let's talk a little bit about kind of going back, just to some early inspiration, some origins, and who first inspired you to play guitar, and what was the first song that you learned?
Guns N' Roses was my band. I mean, Slash was the guy. I was even Slash for Halloween, and
I
the
didn't
first
know
song
that, dude.
I
Oh,
was Slash for Halloween. There's a picture of it somewhere. I think it's on my Facebook page.
well, that's
But
amazing.
before I even had a guitar, I got the wig and the top hat and the leather jacket. And my first concert was actually Poison and Slaughter at the Springfield Civic Center. And seeing CC DeVille running around doing that whole thing, and that's what made me want to do it, really. And then I think my first song, I actually remember I thought about it more after we spoke last. Was I actually learned it on Wood Pond Drive there across from your old bandmate Scott Halloran's house.
Oh yeah, Scotty. Yeah.
With Greg Gendron. He had a drum kit. And we played our own little version of Cold Gin, and I
Okay.
sang it and played it on guitar, and he played it on drums. That was sort of the first time I ever felt the feeling of playing rock and roll.
So I think you first heard about Kiss and got turned on to that by Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits, right?
Yes,
Wasn't that the album
that was the
Yep.
album, because there was Dial MTV. Remember, every day after school, and that song, which listening back, it's a pretty cringy song. Let's put the X in sex.
Let's
That was the
put
big
the
scene.
X.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that didn't really age well.
Yeah, yeah.
At least for me. I watch it now, like, it's probably not the best moment, but I got
Right.
Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits, which had Deuce and Rock and Roll All Night, and then I got all the other cassettes, like I got Dressed to Kill and the first album, Destroyer and Alive and Hotter Than Hell, and that's Kiss, GNR, Poison, Motley Crue. I wasn't listening to anything anybody else was. It was all the same stuff we all listened to.
Right, and then Destroyer. I remember actually when we lived together in Boston, you had the Destroyer, and you cranked that a lot too. I think for just
Destroyer was
inspiration. Yeah.
Destroyer was my favorite, I
Yep.
think, and
Yep.
and the production on that, seeing, I think it was Bob Ezrin that produced it.
Yes.
I watched this behind the albums thing, and he talked about the way they recorded the God of Thunder drums, like in an elevator shaft, and all these cool things. They were all completely coked out of their minds. Well, not Gene and Paul, but Bob
Right.
Ezrin and Ace. Those guys. I mean, you can hear the cocaine on that album now. I listen to, like, that having all those kids singing backups and all the piano and the overdubs. That sounds like definitely some cocaine mixes in there for sure.
It was such a big album in production with that, as you mentioned, just like you said, all the background, the choirs, they were singing and songs,
Yeah.
and huge. And so I think that was the album too, that for me, and my brother had always turned me on to Kiss from an early age and everything. So I was familiar with it. And he had like, I think the Kiss Alive 2 album was the first one, but then kind of going back to Destroyer, I remember the vinyl in our living room, and that was just the one album that was just mesmerized by, so it definitely turned me on. So you do Cold Gin, you figured that song out, but so going back to even before you learn a song on guitar, so what made you pick up guitar in general? And just did you start with any other type of instrument before that? Or?
I mean, I played French horn in the school band, which I absolutely despise.
Yeah.
And I took piano lessons, but I was just drawn to the guitar. I think mainly because Greg had a drum set, and I said, "Well, you got drums, I don't play guitar." And actually, his brother had a guitar, Dan.
Yeah.
And he wasn't playing. I think I picked up his for the first time and kind of messed around with it, and then got my own. But it just kind of happened by proxy. And then there was guitar. I remember in middle school there was guitar club. It was like sort of after school with the music, I forgot the music teacher's name, but Johnny Preiko.
Oh, Johnny Preiko, yeah.
Yeah,
the Johnny Preiko band.
Guy.
Oh, dude, that guy was awesome.
Yeah, he had a guitar club, and every week the music store would come, and I would, you could buy guitar picks for 25 cents, and I would get all excited. And I remember my parents wouldn't let me have an electric. They made me get an acoustic first because it's like, I guess that's the proper way to do it. But I quickly got an electric. I figured it out and got an electric guitar. And, you know,
And yeah, and you were neighbors with Gary Burnham too, right? Didn't he live right next door to you, growing
yeah,
up in the same neighborhood? Yep.
on Windshire Drive. Yeah, he was
Yeah,
Gary
that's right.
Burnham. I think he went on to play baseball or
Yes.
minor league
Yeah.
baseball, whatever. Yeah. Actually,
And
I worked for their dad on that farm, on the Burnham Farms. I used to go
did,
pick corn at like 2:30 in the morning with the dad,
oh
with
my God.
Gary Burnham Senior. Yeah.
And I think everybody in the whole town was related to the Burnhams too. It's
Yeah.
freaking hilarious, you know. They had a big family. So growing up in South Windsor, you know, we're both from South Windsor. What was the local scene in your opinion like? I mean, I know what it was like for me, but what was it like for you? And who were your influences? And what bands were you surrounded by?
Well, I mean, I ended up getting in a band with a bunch of older guys, and I ended up answering an ad in the Hartford Advocate. And when I was 16, I was playing with these guys, they're like in their late 20s, early 30s,
Yeah.
and we played the Russian Lady. We played all those places. But one thing that struck me about Connecticut in general was that it was just a lot of cover bands. I mean, you
Yeah.
had to play covers. There,
Right.
there, there was not much of an original scene at all. That's why I assume you had moved to Boston. That's why I ended up moving, because it's either New York or Boston. Connecticut really didn't have much going on. But there was a lot of talented guys that came out of Connecticut, like especially out in LA. I mean, Mike Duda, the longtime bass player for Wasp, is a Connecticut guy. Matt
Okay.
Starr, Matt Starr,
Yeah, of
was in
course.
the Flames. Him and I
Yeah.
kind of moved to LA together. A lot of guys from Connecticut ended up doing stuff, but it just didn't happen in Connecticut.
Yep.
Playing with your brother, he was, he
Yep.
got me into the Dream Theater and the Russian stuff.
And Matt Starr went on to play with Ace Frehley, right? He played.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So yep,
Yeah.
there's that. And you're right, though. There were a lot of musicians in Connecticut went out to either California or New York or Boston that are
Mm-hmm.
still doing it and are very successful with it. So, okay, so you get some inspiration there. And what were some of the places that you played out in Connecticut other than Russian Lady? And you did a couple outdoor things. Did you ever like do Bridges Cafe? Was that even a club still?
I think I was.
Or
I think I was a little too young for that. That was
yeah,
happening
okay,
when I was
okay,
like, yeah. I know. I remember hearing about Bridges Cafe. There was the
yeah,
Getaway Cafe,
yeah, the Getaway.
that little
Yep,
bar on Sullivan Avenue.
right.
There was a place called Gilo's in East Hartford.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that
A
one.
real
Okay.
sketchy place,
Yeah,
total
yeah.
coke bar.
Oh God.
Real full blown degenerates at that. I think it's still there too. Actually,
Yep.
I
I
think
remember
it's
seeing
actually
you
it's not
guys.
called Gilo's, but we have played Gilo's, the Getaway. Um, there was a couple other places like down in the West Hartford, Glastonbury, East Hartford, Glastonbury area.
Yep.
I don't remember the names though.
Yep. So you formed the band called Wake Up Jack, and tell me about the
Yeah.
creation of that name and where that came from. Do you remember?
you know. Well,
I do.
Jack Halloran, Scott Halloran's dad, and we used to crank call each other. And whenever we would get him on the phone at 2 o'clock in the morning, he'd scream at us. So we'd be like Friday night, Saturday night, we watch Headbangers Ball. It's like, what do you want to do? It's like, well, let's wake up Jack. And it was just, it became a thing. It's fun. It's funny now because we were horrible kids. We were horrible, all of us. We were just complete. If there was the internet back then, all of us would be in jail. If there was social media back when we were growing up, there was Instagram, things would be a lot different. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, Wake Up Jack. That's where we got the name from. Yeah.
Scott, guys are crank calling me again.
Yeah, he used to take the foghorn from his boat, and we'd be in the backyard, we're listening on the cord of his phone, hearing him yelling from across the street. So that's where the name came from. That's it. I wish there was a deeper, more profound meaning to it.
So you had Wake Up Jack, and that was a band, and it was a cover band and original band. And the thing that was cool, there's Tom Andruzio, from South Windsor High School, Carl Lamberg, it was Gary Collins, of course, my brother, and you, and Brian Vesco, and man, everybody in the band was awesome, and you guys could play quite a range of different material, anything covering from like White Zombie to Dream Theater to Rush to Cyndi Lauper, doing medleys, and then like 4 original songs too. So
We made an original tape. We made a tape, and it was for the time. I remember thinking there wasn't a lot of bands in Hartford that played that diverse of a selection of songs. I think we won we won best new band in the Hartford Advocate, and we stuffed the ballot box, and we would just I would get stacks of the Advocate, and we just fill them out. Yeah,
That's all right.
I don't know if we actually won, but we won. See,
Someone's got to win, whether it's legit or not.
The music industry, I was corrupting it from day one.
Yeah, there you go. That's hilarious. So, and I, I'd come back from Boston to visit and just kind of check out the band, and I've seen you guys play quite a bit, and it was cool, jumping on the mic and singing backups for Brian on Pull Me Under for Dream Theaters. So out of those songs, and because you played such a wide range of different material, and I'm thinking of Cheap Trick to Surrender, Spirit of Radio, Thunder Kiss. So was there any songs that stood out to you that you just loved playing in that band?
I like playing the Rage Against the Machine songs because they were that that they were really heavy. The crowd always got really got into those, and playing "Pull Me Under" by Dream Theater. I mean, that's not a walk in the park. That's an actual progressive 6.5 minute, 7 minute song, and we actually played it, to the best of our ability. I'm sure there's some kid on YouTube that in 14 years old that can crush it now, but back then I think and also too we would put our minds to it, say we're going to learn these next songs for the next week and actually do it. And we didn't have internet guitar tab to download. We actually had to learn the songs. It was a lot harder back then.
Dude, I would make up my own lyrics for songs. I would guess if they didn't have the lyrics for cover songs. And it's funny, like for Ozzy, the lines of Crazy Train, I'd totally make up parts and just sing them live like they sound. I have no idea what they're saying.
Yeah.
I think other, people, other musicians that were in the scene couldn't pull off what you guys played. First of all, the range of stuff because of the talent. And, most were doing the top 40 type stuff, but you went above and beyond that, which was differentiating you from the whole scene, I think, and, made you guys stand out. But then you had originals too, right? Because you were a cover band, but you also did originals, and there weren't a lot that were or successful with it and maintaining a good balance between the two. So tell me a little bit about, the experience recording those 4 songs. How long did it take you to do? How long did you think it took to do like your guitar tracks and put it all together?
It was all. I mean, I think we did it all in a couple of days. It was all really quick. I think we did the whole thing in 2 or 3 days. I remember it wasn't. We didn't have. I mean, it was recorded on ADATs. We didn't have Pro Tools. It was just kind of what you recorded is what you got. There's no editing. There's no fixing anything. I mean, it was kind of what it was, and it was. I didn't know what I was doing. We were just kind of flying by the seat of our pants. But yeah, like making a record back then, it was okay. Here's your 2 tracks for guitar. This is what they are. So he didn't have the options of reamping stuff and plugins and fixing. So it kind of what you hear, what you listen to on those tracks, and actually anything recorded back then, it was basically done to tape. So it was pretty quick. It was almost borderline recorded live. I mean, if I remember correctly.
So did you have the ability, or did you, before you went in the recording studio, have any experience recording on 4 tracks and doing overdubs, or is that your first experience doing overdubs?
Oh no, tracks? I had recorded in that other band that Brian Vesco were in beforehand. There was a whole studio we had access to. We did a whole record, and that was done on ADATs as well. So I had experience recording, but it was the first time I was kind of in charge of it. It was my band. It wasn't somebody else's songs that I was just coming in and playing solos on. It was building it from the ground up and actually booking the studio time and getting the equipment there and paying for it. We use money from our shows to pay for it, which, it was self-sustaining. We made money, put it back into the band, and I don't think we ever really sold any records. I think we gave a lot of them away, but
I was in the band. I don't know if you knew this band, but it was a little while, I think, after high school. It was called an 853. And so, a bunch of talented guys playing, and it was right before I moved out to Boston. And it was kind of like a progressive metal band, but it's the same thing. But I think we tracked everything, one day, drums, guitar, and I came back and did all the vocals and got the vocals done for 4 songs. And I think maybe like 4 or 5 hours of just singing overdubs, lots of things. But I kind of mapped it out ahead of time. I always had this vision
Yeah,
and plan of what to do and where to record parts and when I'm gonna do the takes and
yeah,
everything. So it's kind of it's like a blueprint for everything that I did. But I think a lot of bands, like I said, kind of worked in that format where they just get in the studio quickly. It wasn't like now where you spend a lot of time and a lot of
yeah.
production if you can, and have your own equipment at home where you could record and then send it off. You know, the songwriting process, I'm sure, from back then now has evolved from those first tunes to what you do now. So how has it progressed for you?
Well, every project is different, you know. Like, it depends. I mean, some projects, like I did a project called Hotel Diablo about 10 years ago, and
Yep.
that was I was with Mike from Wasp, Gilby Clark, the Guns N' Roses rhythm guitar player from the '90s. He produced it, and we all kind of wrote together in a room. Like we would go, we would demo the songs at. I had a home Pro Tools rig that because the singer was living with me at the time. I would demo the songs and we bring them into Gilby's and just kind of make a blueprint in Pro Tools and then start building the tracks from there. With Quiet Riot, when Kevin was alive, him and I would just demo songs in his studio with just a drum machine and guitar. And then, you know, when the songs went on the record, that it was the last record called Rehab, Frankie played to the demos on some of those songs. That record's got a lot of different people on it.
Yeah.
Every band's different. Like a lot of it depends on who's the main songwriter,
Okay.
how finished the songs are when you go into the studio. I mean,
Yep.
sometimes I'll go in and the song will be done and it's just play a solo here and do a couple of licks here and it's done. And sometimes
Mm.
it's here's a blank slate. I mean, it's every project is different, every song is different. So and thankfully with Pro Tools nowadays you have the luxury of, you know, doing it. And then if you feel like the next morning, I could have done it better, you open up your laptop, plug in.
Yeah.
Doing a record on tape, I think forces you to be better and more creative though, because you have to get it good. You can't
That's a good
rely on
point.
fixing it. You have to
That's
be
a
good
really
back
good
then.
point.
Not
Yeah,
to
to have
sound like
all the pressure.
yeah, not to sound like a crotchety old man, but I had to play it right or else there was no way the guy could chop it and Frankenstein apart and make a solo. It's like, no, dude. And even especially with ADATs, there's nothing. At least with 2-inch, you can cut it with a razor blade if you had one of those guys, you know. But
Yeah.
you had to
Yeah.
kind of you had to kind of know the song a lot better, you know. And drummers especially too back then, you know.
What are the things that just you love that stand out about recording as opposed to the live performance?
They both have their pros and cons. I mean, I don't
Mm.
really prefer one to the other. I'm getting paid when I perform. There's a lot more money in that nowadays than there is in recording, at least for me in my world, you know. A lot of heritage bands aren't making too much new music nowadays, so a lot of it is on the road touring is where you're really doing most of your work. One thing about studios nowadays is I get cabin fever after 5 hours listening to the same drum track. I don't like the old splitting hairs. I don't like making things
Yeah.
perfect either. I mean, just
Oh,
because you can make something perfect doesn't mean you should. And I've
right.
made records where they make the drum track will be cool, and then they'll edit it where every single hit and every single cymbal splash it's exactly perfect. And I'm like, but that's not rock and roll. I like a
Yeah.
little bit of dirt in there, you know. If you take Appetite for Destruction and put it to a grid, it's all over the place, but it's magical. It's perfect that way, you know. It doesn't have to be right on the click. It doesn't have to be perfect, at least in my opinion. So that's one thing I don't like about the studio is when it gets to splitting hairs and making everything perfect.
You got to kind of look at it as the art and how much of the art do you want to disrupt with trying to clean it up like you're saying. And so we're in Connecticut still, and then let's think of Boston and the move up to Boston and the EU Wurlitzer days. And so what motivated you to make the move to Boston in the first place?
When Wake Up Jack, I remember that summer we won the best new band, and I kind of looked around and I saw these bands playing the same bars, playing the same songs for the same people, and it was kind of like Groundhog Day. And I'm like, you know what? I'm 18 years old. I'm gonna go now because I don't want to sit around and wake up and go, I should have, could have, would have. I didn't want to get stuck playing the Russian lady, forever. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I knew there was more out there, and there seemed to be a lot more culture in the big cities. Like I said, I mean, Hartford is the insurance capital of the world or
Yeah.
the country. It's all for
Yeah.
insurance. I was starting to get the itch, and also Berkeley too. I for a minute I really thought I wanted to go to Berkeley, and I did. I was enrolled and I went there, but I realized really quickly that was not for me. That was definitely not my scene.
And was it not your scene because you go in there and everybody's like, bloop, 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 and then they're just
No.
like chewing, and then you're just like, I don't know.
Well, okay, there's a class they offer called rock performance taught by a guy who's teaching you how to be a quote rock star in the rock world. It's like, well, if you know so much about being a rock star, why aren't you on a tour bus? Why haven't I seen you on MTV? I'm not going to take lessons from a guy who didn't do what he's trying to teach me.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. The person that is advising you on exactly what you need to do to be successful in music isn't doing what you want to do.
Yeah, if CC DeVille was in the front of the class, and all right, if they really, all right, this guy, no. So, and then it's, again, no disrespect, but it's also, Berkeley's also, there's the academic side of it, which I was like, I was a horrible student, and I'm not going to spend $80,000 a year to flunk math again. So I just figured, I'm just going to roll the dice and go for it and actually go out there and get in the trenches and do it. And I think I did the right thing because, again, there's people, I know a lot of people that have gone to Berkeley and not finished or finished, but they're still doing the same thing I'm doing. But they have a Berkeley degree on their wall a couple $100,000 later.
You're working at Wurlitzer, and you're actually the reason I got that job. So what do you remember about those days? The people, think about the gear, the kinds of community it created.
I worked there because I had worked at Ricardo's Music in Connecticut. So I already knew all the salesmen, all the ins and outs of that. So it was kind of a natural, it was an easy job because I know I could do it and I'd still be around music all day,
I did not have a clue what pro audio gear was all about. And I remember Chip, the guy that was in keyboards, he was on the right side of me and he was just looking at me, just like shaking his head all the time. When I was trying to sell gear, I had no idea what the hell I was talking about.
Yeah.
Trying to think if it was Mike Berry. Mike Berry, I think, was the guy that ran that place at the time, right?
I'm friends with him on Facebook.
Cool.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. Yeah, he was in a band that band Angry Salad I played with. We played a show. They were called Puka Stew, I remember.
The Greenhouse, a northeastern apartment era. So let's talk a little bit about that. So when you first came to Boston, you moved into the Greenhouse with me, and that was packed with musicians, most that went to Berkeley. And so what stands out the most from that wild house and time in our lives?
Everyone there was in a band trying to do it. Everyone was doing the hustle.
Dude, the water balloon slingshot was the best. And it needed 3 people to operate that baby. And it was a pulley on each side and someone from the middle to like release it. And oh my God, we would... And we're getting some yards with those things, man. With all 3 people operating, we get them, like you said, across in the parking lot across the street. Yeah. It was a flat roof, which was, you have parties, and then we'd go up there with tons of people. Everybody would take turns doing it. Mm-hmm. And it was hilarious. It was a Store 24 across the street. And I remember...
That's right.
Right. And then what would happen is, it would go and land in the parking lot, and people were looking on the roof and trying to climb the roof of the store to find out, try to get the people that are doing this, not realizing we're like half a block down the road. So after that, we moved into the basement apartment near Northeastern, where my room literally was the living room. So what do you remember about living there?
I remember the rats, and I remember it being not in the greatest neighborhood. It was literally a basement apartment on the corner.
Yep.
Yeah, it wasn't great, but you could get to work from there. It was close to the T line. It's cheap. It served its purpose.
When I was living in the living room, it was that was the area for kind of putting some songs together, thinking about parts, writing lyrics. So there's a lot of music that was created in that living room too. But before, when you first moved up to Boston, I was in a band with Sib Hashian, ex-drummer of the band from Boston. I was in a band with him and Donnie Vito. And there was a guy on guitar. His name was also Jim. And he was like 6'5", long hair. Dude, he looked just like Jerry Cantrell. I swear to God, It was Jerry Cantrell. So he was playing guitar. Donnie Vito was on bass. So we had a band. We had a bunch of songs that half of them I don't think you'd even heard before you joined. He left, and then at that point in time, you had moved up to Boston. You joined the band. You tried out for the band. I'm trying to remember how you tried out. I think you just tagged along with me one day.
I think you said with this band, I think I went to a rehearsal, and you said they were looking for a guitar player, because I remember it was me, you, and Donnie. And I think I just kind of showed up and just kept coming.
So you joined the band, and then Donnie switches from guitar. He was playing guitar to bass. And then you took over on guitar. So it changed the dynamic of the whole band. It was completely different when we had the other guy on guitar. The energy changed and shifted too. It was more of a serious band before. And then when you came in, you were cracking jokes and you just had a great sense of humor. And I think I would just had that kind of similar rub off on from your personality with me, then I lightened up a little bit, and I think it was more of a fun atmosphere. Personally, in that band, I had so much more fun when you joined. It
I
was
mean, I don't
great.
know what it was like before, but I know that
Yep.
I remember at one point I was bringing our friend John Probilla with us just because he always had
Yeah.
weed, and Sib liked him because he had weed. I mean, we go to rehearsal, and I think we played a total of 20 minutes worth of music in a 4-hour rehearsal. You know,
Yeah.
some of those nights,
Yep.
which led to we the whole Peter Wolf stool thing, which I feel bad about now looking back. That was bad. I don't know why we did that, but why did we do that?
So it's a lot of drinking. There's a lot of drinking
Yeah,
that was
there was
involved
drinking
at
going on,
practice. So that
Yeah.
was the big part, I think. And
I remember going to the store and finding the stool and buying it and bringing it. We brought it in.
you did? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Sib said just. I remember calling Sib at the record store, and he's like, "Look, I called him at Soundwaves at his store, and I said, well, how could I feel we obviously smashed the guy's stool, and I had the head. I still have it somewhere, the actual front of the stool. It says Wolf on it, and we got it. We brought it and Sib put a bow on it and got him a little teddy bear. I remember, said he's sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So who drew the little teardrop underneath the eye of the stuffed animal? I think Sib did. I think Sib did it.
Yeah.
That was a sense of humor.
The thing is, if any of us had confronted the Peter Wolf guy and said we smashed your shit, sorry, but Sib gets a pass because he's Sib, so he sort of stepped in front of it for us, which I thought was a very bro of him.
Yeah, hell yeah. And but it was cool because and then his friend it was a Kamal, I think Kamal take pictures. Yeah, Kamal now he takes pictures for I think Weird Al. He's been on tour with them and all sorts of different acts and stuff like that. So who I keep in contact with him through Facebook too. But yeah, so he would take pictures, he would show up. It was just when he was starting to do that, and so he got some really good candids and cool things of just early stuff with us, and a lot of which I still have now and post from time to time. A lot of the songs that we wrote, instead of them having demos, which is what I got before you joined the band, they were like, here, sing over the music we've already created. It was a different element now because you and I and everybody there were creating the music right then and there.
It was a group effort. Yeah,
It was organic, and play this part again. And I remember Sib specifically saying to you, play that bubbly part. Yeah.
The bubbly part. I still don't know what that means, but sure. Yeah.
The bubbly part for the guitar solos, and it was funny because he would have a mic on, and I gotta find this somewhere, but
him with the headset mic.
The headset mic, and he would like let it all out during it. And when we're recording songs, that's all you could hear when he was playing the instruments. You could hear him singing what drum he was hitting or what cymbal he was hitting. It was like, it was hilarious to hear. So I wish I had that.
That
still.
was funny.
But he was amazing to play with, and he had a great sense of humor. We used to go out to TGIF Fridays, and that's before you joined the band, and just kind of hang out, So it was cool. I got to know him and just be kind of like friends, and so that was nice after practices, getting to know him a little bit. We did that 3-song demo. We did I Am. So obviously Smokin was a remake of that, and you took an element from another Boston song, and you weave that into, and that was creative. You weave that into the song. So that's the one. So that is the one with Sib singing. So I got totally cut out of that one, and you can hear.
You're still credited.
So the scream's on there still. So we have the scream, but I have the demos of the actual songs with me singing, and the other two we did. He did. So he sang lead on that.
I think he took like 7 years to release it. I got this from him in the mid 2000s. He sent it to me.
That's awesome.
And I actually spoke with him a couple years before he passed away. I got reconnected with him because he passed away on this thing called the Legends of Rock cruise. He died on the cruise ship, and Quiet Riot played it the next year, the year following. And
he had a heart attack on it, yeah.
He had a heart attack and he died. I mean, we were playing on the same drum riser. Like I told the promoter, I said, he's playing with Sib. He goes, he died right there 1 year ago.
Oh, wow.
Died. He went died with his boots on, man. He died doing what he loved.
During that time too, you and I wrote 3 originals together. We did a song called Rubber Statue. It was House of Gold and Take Everyone. And there were 3 songs that just hanging out in the living room, and you were riffing on guitar, and I came up with some ideas. And what do you remember about like the creative chemistry between us? Just kind of you and I, guitar, and me on vocals.
I remember it happened pretty organically. I mean, it was, I mean, we knew each other from coming up in Connecticut together. So there was a lot of times when you're writing with someone, getting to know them first, it kind of, like meeting a total stranger, it's kind of hard to jive right away, but we kind of knew each other already. So that wall had already been broken down. So it was pretty, it was very organic. Yeah.
So we recorded Rubber Statue as a demo back then, and now, you know, we're talking about re-recording it with Mark Everton Gray, Richard Belgard from Blue Man Group, and John Horesco. These are three guys that, you know, I connected with recently. And yeah, I guess, what does it mean to kind of revisit that song nearly 3 decades later with that team?
I really have to give it another, like, totally give it a listen to and see where, you know, because it's just a guitar and vocal demo now. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd have to, you know, it's cool. I mean, I remember the song. I still remember the chorus in my head, which means it's catchy because it's been 30 years. So that's a good sign, you know. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to see what we can do with it, you know.
And around the same period, we recorded with Sib Hashian. What was it like to work with him and be part of that energy?
It was cool because, you know, you're playing with a guy that actually did it and sold 20 million records and had been through the ringer with the industry. I remember thinking it was cool that the guy, you know, he'd already done it, but he was still doing this. Obviously not for financial gain. There was no money changing hands or anything. Just because he liked playing drums, and that was inspiring. There was no art. There was no motive or power struggle or any agenda with him. He was just there because he liked to play his drums, and that was cool to see. You know?
And I think he just has the musician's bug too. He just wants to keep playing and keep doing it, you know, as he did. We did those 3 songs. We did, you know, I Am in Your Mind, the heavy remake of Smokin. So, you know, we talked a little bit about the creative experience. So what stood out about Sib as a drummer?
He was just, the biggest thing was his sense of humor. He was really funny. He was just a naturally funny guy. Even when I talked to him years later, he would say things just in passing that he wasn't even trying to be funny. And he was funny. He was kind of like Ace Frehley. Ace Frehley is naturally a funny guy.
Yeah.
You know, even when he's not trying to, there's no punchline. It's just, he's a funny guy, you know, and he didn't take things too seriously. I think a lot of people could learn from that, you know. A lot of guys take things way too seriously. And he didn't care. He was just like, yeah, I'm going to do, you know, I'm going to record this version of Smokin with however I want to sing it. And I don't care.
It was funny. The first time he heard a demo of me singing prior in the band right before I joined his, and it was the guys in the greenhouse that we did a 2-song demo. He was listening to it, and he's like, pancake. You know, when I was singing flat, he would say pancake. Before you move out to LA, you joined a band called Angry Salad.
Yes, that's kind of the bridge between Boston and LA, because I joined Angry Salad. They were a band, based, you know, obviously a Boston band that was, you know, very heavily touring. And they, about a year and a half after joining the band got signed to Atlantic Records, and we did a major label album, you know, on Atlantic. The record came out in 1999, I believe, and about 6 months later was sort of the dawn of Napster. So we were right on the cusp of that whole down. I remember we were doing a meet and greet at a record store, and people were bringing in CDRs of our album to get autographed. And I'm like, what's this? Like, oh, I downloaded it. I'm like, downloaded it?
Oh, yeah, that was
that was the beginning of that. And that was sort of, and, you know, we were on Atlantic Records, and at the time, you know, other bands on Atlantic were like Sugar Ray, Matchbox 20, Kid Rock, Jewel. I mean, you're competing with that. So it was like, I was on one hand, it was like, oh, cool, we're signed to a major label. And the other hand, it's like, now you're competing with everybody, you know? And, yeah, that band, you know, the band, we toured heavily through the end of 2000. I think in 2001, the band got dropped and bought out of the deal, and that everyone kind of went their separate ways. And I decided, well, I'm done with Boston. I hate New York. I'm going to LA. And that's how that happened.
So who were the other bands that you were touring with?
Goo Goo Dolls, Bare Naked Ladies, Fastball, another one. The Cowboy Mouth was a band we toured with a lot. They're from New Orleans.
Okay.
The Samples we did a lot of touring with. But I think the best ones that stuck out to me we did some shows with Sugar Ray, and that was when they were huge. And Mark McGrath was just like 85%, 90% hot college chicks. You know?
Oh, sure.
It was great. Yeah. The audience for Sugar Ray, good looking audience.
What did you learn from Angry Salad as far? Did you learn the business aspects of the music?
Very much,
business
very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so, because they did everything themselves. We ended up getting a booking agent, but until we got signed, we didn't have the agent. You know, the drummer did a lot of the bookings, and we had a road manager that did all the advancing. So a lot of that rubbed off on me, and a lot of what I'm doing today, even with Quiet Riot, a lot of that's been applied to what I'm doing now, because in the 90s, a lot of bands had to do things themselves. The days of the big record deal, were over. You kind of had to be your own publicist and be your own booking agent and be your own tour manager and kind of wear several different hats. And those guys taught me a lot because they were all Brown graduates, that band. They weren't your typical dumb idiot rock band guys. These guys were Ivy League smart dudes that could have done whatever. They all have like real jobs now, and they're normal people contributing to society. I'm the one flying the flag still here doing this. You know, but I learned a lot because they did it. I mean, they actually took, we were doing at one point 250, 260 shows a year. We were living on the road,
That's insane. Wow.
Touring from coast to coast in a van, with next to no tour support. And even when we did get signed, the label didn't give us tour support. So a lot of it was funded with playing college shows and merchandise. And they taught me a lot. I mean, I'm still in touch with them too. I mean, it was this close, on Atlantic at the right time. It's just, the difference between batting 250 and 300 is X amount of base hits a year in baseball. And we were close, but it just didn't happen. And, but it was a really good experience to see exactly how things work at the next level.
All right. So then after that, you end up heading west to Los Angeles. So what were those early months like out there, adjusting to the scene, meeting people, finding your footing?
Well, I moved out there because I got offered a gig touring with a band called Ignite. They're an Orange County hardcore band. That toured with like Pennywise and Bad Religion. They were the more punk thing. And I already had that gig lined up when I moved out there. And I did that for about 6 months. And then I got hired. I got called to do a tour with an artist named Amy Allen. She was on Elektra Records. The record never came out. The record actually got shelved after we did 6 months of touring on it. She's now singing for the band The Interrupters, who's doing really well. I don't know if you heard of them, but from there, The Interrupters. Yeah, Amy, before she was Amy Interrupter, she was Amy Allen. And it was, the record was produced by Don Gilmore. It was kind of like Joan Jett meets Linkin Park.
Yeah. Cool.
It was a great record. It was really, really cool. Josh Freese played drums on it, which was cool. I got to actually, when she did the next batch of songs, I got to track some guitars to his drums, and I was like, oh, this guy's, the real Josh Freese, The turning point was when I met up with, I joined a band called Beautiful Creatures that had just finished Ozfest. Their guitar player, DJ Ashba, had left, who he ended up being in GNR. And that the band was booked by the same booking agency that was also booking some shows for Kevin Dubrow when he was doing a solo tour. And Kevin needed a guitar player for his solo tour because Quiet Riot had broken up. And this was like 2003, 2004. And I ended up meeting Kevin, doing a handful of shows, doing a tour. And by the end of that tour, I guess him and Frankie Banali decided to put the band back together. And I got the call to do it. And that's
awesome.
22 years ago.
That's insane. 22 years ago. Just blows my freaking mind.
But there's a documentary that the band put out in 2015 that kind of documents how we got our, when Kevin passed away, getting the band back together, auditioning singers, that whole process. I mean,
what did it feel like when you first got that call to join Quiet Riot, especially being the only third guitarist since Randy Rhoads?
It was heavy. It was heavy because I knew I was super psyched, but I also knew it's like, okay, there's going to be a lot of haters. A lot of bands now have, maybe one or two or no original members. But 20 years ago, it was still a shock when a band would come out. Like when Skid Row came out without Sebastian Bach and they had a new singer, people were hating on it. And when Rat came out without Stephen Pearcy, and when Kiss got Tommy Thayer to replace Ace Frehley, fans were brutal towards it. Now it's people have accepted the fact that life goes on and people are going to die and retire. But there was a lot of, because there was Quiet Riot without with two of the Mental Health lineup guys not there. Everyone was really cool. The first year I was in the band, we did a tour called the Rock Never Stops Tour, and it was Cinderella, Rat, Quiet Riot, and Firehouse, and we did it was 70 shows over the course of 3 months.
Yeah,
literally. Wow. We started in June and ended in September. We were on the tour bus for 3 months, and everyone, I got to know all the guys, all the crew guys, and everyone was really cool. It wasn't the 80s anymore, so people had kind of gotten over their grudges, and people had sobered up and they let a lot of things go. So it was like a cool second wave of the whole thing that I got to be a part of.
So what has the journey taught you about consistency and staying authentic?
Taught me that loyalty is very important in this business. And, there's a lot of guys like hired gun musicians that the second a gig doesn't work for them, they'll jump for another one. They're always looking for the next gig. And if you stick around and stay loyal to something, it'll come back to you. There's something to be said for loyalty. There were some, crappy times. I mean, after Kevin died, getting the band back together wasn't easy. It's documented in the movie, but sticking it out through all that and staying in there, hanging in there, it goes a long way. I mean, I know a lot of people that wouldn't have stuck around. I think it definitely pays off. Loyalty and consistency and just showing up and doing a good job, being a pro.
And I'm sure that's a big contributor to your success overall. I have no doubt about it.
It's
right?
I mean, the way I remember Kevin telling me, he's like, this band will always work. I mean, bands from the MTV era, and they're only getting bigger. I mean, you see the amount of tickets Rush is selling now. I mean, Rush never did 4 nights at Madison Square Garden.
No, right.
And now they're doing it. I mean, these older bands, the more time goes on, first off, there's less and less of them. They're getting bigger and bigger. So, sticking it out. I saw somewhere it's called monoculture. Like if you're part of something that was part of the MTV generation, that'll never happen again. When there was,
right.
Madonna and Michael Jackson and Quiet Riot. And then even in the 90s, like Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, even like the smaller bands, like look at Creed. Creed just came back out and they're selling more tickets than they ever had when they were on the radio. When they were like number one on Billboard, they're doing bigger numbers now. It's people like the music of their youth and music of their childhood, and it's cool to see classic rock is bigger than ever.
And please tell me you're getting tickets too to see Rush at one of the shows at least, right? Because you're a Rush fan.
I like. Yeah, you know what? I saw him in the late 90s. I think it was 98.
I was with you. We saw him together
in Hartford.
Yep.
Was it Hartford? I don't know. I'm good. I'm good with Rush.
Really? Okay.
It takes a lot to get me off the couch to go see any show nowadays because I'm always on the road. It's like I did go see. I went to the Sammy Hagar residency out here. That was cool. But
nice.
Yeah, I don't.
Cool.
I'm. Plus, I'm not. I mean, it's like $2,500 to sit on the floor for the Rush show. I heard
because you're out in it all the time and you're playing and stuff. That balance and that chill time. I don't want to. Yeah, that makes sense.
The last thing I want to do on my week off is go to a loud rock and roll concert.
Okay, that makes complete
sense.
sense, dude. I get it now. I totally get it. So having worked with Kevin and now carrying the band's legacy, what do fans sometimes misunderstand about Quiet Riot and the story of Quiet Riot?
I mean, I think the band. I mean, a lot. 80s metal in general gets kind of it was never really accepted by the critics. Like Rolling Stone and the cool kids always would diss on hair metal. Always. I mean, even when Kevin passed away, I don't even think they gave it. I think Rolling Stone did like a little thing, a little tiny little article. I mean, the band sold 10 million records and had the number one metal. They did a lot of things that, But 80s metal in general, like you'll never see. I don't think you're ever going to see any of those bands in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or whatever. But those things don't even matter. I mean, it's funny. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame doesn't in the real world. Fans don't care about that shit. They don't.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I work at a booking agency that has we have several clients that have been inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and literally the year after they got inducted, we were thinking, oh, their money's going to go up, his phone's going to be ringing off the hook. Nothing. It made absolutely no difference. In the real world, it doesn't mean anything. No one goes to see a band because they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. No one cares. It doesn't matter. They go because they like the songs and they like the nostalgia of it, What
does a typical day in the life of Alex Grossi look like now? Well, like, what's your daily routine? I want to know.
If I'm not on the road, to get up, get on my email, and usually, make calls, do band business, advance the shows, look at airline tickets because we're always flying. We fly everywhere. We don't do tour buses anymore. Check out, what the airfares are and what's available for flights. Book the flights. Typical road manager, band stuff. I mean, everyone in the band, we all work together doing everything. It's very hands-on. I also work for the booking agency, see what's out there for shows, and pretty much what you'd expect from a touring musician. Make sure my gear's working, make sure everyone's got their flights, make sure we have the right hotels, make sure that we have the right ground transportation.
And you like that too, right? That's kind of like
I love it,
skill set you like.
I remember, a couple times we hire a travel agent to do things where you can hire, I like just doing the whole thing as a package and just being hands-on and knowing I'm in control of making sure we're going to be comfortable and be rested and everything. I mean, if they say if you want something done right, do it yourself. This band's very hands-on like that, you know.
So what is the downtime like? What are you doing for fun, just to kind of relax? Can you like sit through a show or a movie, or are you just like,
Oh
I
yeah,
can't, I
yeah.
can't, I got to get up and
My wife and I binge. I just for the first time watched The Sopranos. I never watched The Sopranos back in the day. I just
What do you
spent a
think?
week. I finished it a couple of days ago. I didn't like that. I don't understand the ending. I don't get it. Plays that Journey song and then it cuts. I'm like, what happened?
They don't want to show what happens in front of his family and that people are gonna, that'd be the end of that character.
I like watching. I watch all the, I like Landman. I like, I watch all the Yellowstone. And my wife and I, we've been going to Mexico a lot. We're going to go to Mexico next month again this year. We like going to the all inclusives and just doing nothing.
That's cool.
Go to Cancun.
Dude.
I mean, I rack up enough miles during the year where we can fly anywhere for nothing. So that's kind of what we do when I have downtime.
Yeah, we went to Mexico last summer. We went on a cruise, and one of the stops was a private island in Mexico. So I think it's always something to look forward to, right? When you could plan a vacation like that with your wife, and just have that to look forward to. Okay, this is just time to relax. Now, can you relax when you're on vacation, or do you find you're working too?
My phone's still on. There's always something to do. Rudy, our bass player, is 75 this year. I mean, he doesn't need to do this, but it's like, this is what we do. We don't, when these bands announce their retirement, I'm always like, you're not going to stay retired. No one retires. You can't, music keeps you young, and the second you stop doing it, you get old. I don't look at it like I'm off. It's downtime because I really enjoy what I do. It's like, I feel like I never really go to work. I'm just doing what I do,
Dude, all the bands that we listen to, well, I think I'm assuming you too, but if they're still alive, they're still playing. They are still playing. That's just in their blood, and they continue to do it, like you're saying.
I mean, look at Rush. I'm sure they don't need the money, but I'm sure, like, let's go out and play. What are we gonna do? To sit here and die? Wither away, die on the vine in Canada? Get out there.
So looking back from South Windsor garage days to touring globally, what drives you creatively now?
Like I said, a lot of these heritage bands aren't recording new music, so I'm not really in writing mode. I haven't been for a couple of years. I mean, I've done some collaborations with some other people that hasn't, the stuff hasn't been released yet, but nothing really. It's more, I'm driven just to stay in the game, keep the band working, and just keep myself busy, playing the shows.
Finally, what advice would you give to, young musicians writing their first originals or grinding it out in their hometown scenes?
It's a different world now than it was when you and I were coming up, because, the traditional record deal doesn't exist. So if you're thinking you're going to do it and actually get paid right off the bat, you're not. You got to really focus on building your own brand and doing it because you like doing it. Don't do it for any other reason than because you really enjoy it. If your goal is just to go viral and get 1 million follows or 1 million likes, then we're talking about creating content or writing music in the traditional sense. I mean, there's so many ways people can be creative nowadays, because every single person has a TikTok channel now. You're competing with everybody. Back in the day, you were only competing with the other bands that had record deals and videos on MTV. It was a much smaller pool. Now, the playing field's been leveled completely, where everyone can get their stuff out there. And I know of a couple bands that have financial backing, and they're trying to literally buy it. Like, they're buying onto playlists, they're buying onto tours, and even there with millions of dollars behind them, it's still not happening. It's really tough. It's really hard nowadays. Even having a ton of money won't get it done. The plan is to literally line up for you.
Well, I'm going to have the GC farewell cigarette, and I'm going to say, tell me what's on the horizon next for the band. And I think you're coming to Mohegan Sun, if I'm not correct, in December. And listen to me. December 12th. Wolf's in more intimate setting. Oh my God, this is gonna be great. I'm so psyched. I've got to come see you, and I'm telling my son about it. And I told him, as your first concert, we've got to go check out Alex Grossi and Quiet Riot, buddy of mine from South Windsor, and the band that rocks it out.
8 p.m., 90-minute set at the Wolf Den on December 12th. It's a Friday night.
That's awesome. And you just did the arena recently.
We just did the arena with Sebastian Bach and Slaughter. It was killer. That was a really good show. It was one of the better. We've done the arena about 4 or 5 times now. I think
Yeah.
this was probably the best one we did.
Dude, Alex, thank you so much for, talking with me today. And this is the third episode. I knew I had to get you on to just talk about just old times. But because we have that personal connection, we know each
Yeah.
other, there's a little behind the scenes, behind the curtain, if you will, of some of the stories, some of the things, some of the experiences we shared together. So it's just, it's an honor to be part of that and talk with you, catch up, and also just hear about the amazing things you continue to do with music. So I'm very proud of you. I get inspired by you and your drive and your burning desire to just continue to do what you're passionate about, man. I hope we catch up again soon, man. Sooner than later.
Yeah, well,
and do this all
bring
over.
your son to bring your son to Mohegan Sun. That's a good place to do that because it's smaller.
Have an awesome
All
night,
right.
dude. Peace, brother.
All right, you got it, buddy.